Hello everyone! 6 Zentangle techniques for beginners. First you're going to start with 6 circles on the page, and the first technique will be circles. Circles that are touching, circles that are teeny tiny, medium size, large, all touching. Just make sure that your circles are touching. And don't worry about your circles looking perfect. They will not be perfect, and that's kind of the cool part. Keep going. Use the entire circle that you drew to practice this technique. So keep going, and eventually you will fill in that entire space. As I look at it, I think how cool the larger circles look inside and surrounded by the smaller circles. So you can create any kind of look you want. I'm just kind of randomly putting them on the page, and I kind of like to surprise myself to see what comes of it. So let's move on to the next technique, which is half circles. Kind of half circles, quarter circles, they're kind of overlapping each other. So you'll just start from the outside line and start piling those half and quarter circles on top of each other, almost like little mountains. And to add an interesting look to this pattern, you can go inside those half and quarter circles and add more of the same shape. And here I'm starting to kind of play with all the different things that I could actually do, like make the kind of the rainbow look or color in the shape completely and make it solid, solid black or solid white, whichever. So as you can see, it can really, these half circles and quarter circles can make a really cool, neat pattern design. And you just have to trust the process and keep it going. Next, okay, there's our first and our second circles, half circles. Next, we are going to look at spirals. I love spirals. I like to do my spirals in different directions. So I just spiral in one direction, and then I always make sure that when I spiral the other one, that they kind of touch the backs or they are attached, like almost like the vines of a plant. So I spiral in one direction. Now this is just the way I prefer to do it. You might try something a little different, but I love to, and then it looks like I'm attaching them here, which is something I just sort of just did. um, so after I get the spirals all down, big ones, little ones, going in different directions, I'm starting to fill in space, starting to kind of tangle with the spirals. You don't have to do that. The spiral itself is just very, very simple, very organic looking. Looks like plant life or something like that. But then again, I'm showing you how you can actually go in and take some of that negative space and create some more interesting depth to it. And that's just what I'm doing here. But the basics of this technique are the spirals themselves. Play with them. You can have them going all in the same direction. You can have them going in different directions. You can have them connected. You can have them separate. Um, but yeah, and I'm just kind of playing around with what lines can I join that make sense and what kind of look does that bring. And that's the fun thing about Zentangle art is you'll create all these interesting, cool looking patterns without even really trying. So spirals is our third technique. And there you go. So our fourth technique will be petals. I love petals too because they look like leaves, because you can shape them any way you want, and they always have a line that goes a quarter down the middle of the leaf or petal and those two dots. So the line, dot, dot, line, dot, dot, line, dot, dot. Yeah, you can make them overlap each other like I'm doing and keep bringing them all. I'm bringing them all inward because I have a circle that I'm filling in. But you know, if you were doing a square or a different shape, you might do it a little different. And those are the petals. You should remember line, dot, dot, and you can shape them any way you want. All right, now our next Zentangle technique. I use this a lot. If you go back and look at some of my videos, you will see I use a lot of line in my Zentangle art, like curly, curvy, wavy lines. So these are curvy lines. Curvy lines look so cool when you put them side by side and you just keep going. And in this instance, I decided to show you how cool it can be to take the curvy lines and into different directions. So I've got a bunch of them going in one direction and then some going in another direction, creating a whole different um, effect with all of these different curvy lines. It kind of reminds me of hair. You can keep the lines close together. You can keep them further apart. If you want to create darkness or depth, you want them to be closer together. If you want things to look lighter in tone overall, then you'll have them a little bit further apart. But the cool thing about the curvy lines is that they are curvy lines and they create movement. I mean, what I'm seeing here is lines that kind of represent some kind of movement. And here I just kind of made a loop inside the negative space that was left over. You'll get inspired to do all kinds of different things with negative space that's left over in your design. And there you have it, curvy lines. There's your curvy lines, and there's your, yeah. Next, we have another kind of Zentangle, organic, nature looking, more freestyle, just creating random mushroom looking shapes with vines. And they're kind of like dancing. And this is something that I have seen in a lot of Zentangle art. and I'll tend to use it sometimes. And when I first drew these, I really wasn't that crazy about how they looked. So, what you do is you just keep working with it. You just keep working with it, keep playing with it. I decided to add what looks more like grass, weeds, or something like that. And all kinds of interesting things came from this pattern. I like to overlap my shapes and my patterns, so I'll have lines that go behind other lines. And so that's basically what these are, is kind of like just organic mushroom shapes. So once I actually took the mushroom shapes to a whole nother level, I added kind of like a shadow behind each shape. And then I started to think about those, those globes that you used to get when you go to Disney World, and it has, images inside this globe of water and sparkles. I don't know what you call those things, but so I started to think about that, and I started to use probably my favorite technique, which is the dots. And so the dots, I have them kind of going kind of in a circular pattern, as well as around the shapes of the mushrooms, and kind of as if the mushrooms are inside this globe. And yeah, that's what I was thinking at the time. You could do all kinds of different things with this art form. And here you have the finished product. This is your sixth shape, and here are all six shapes. Let's take a look. You've got your circles, your half circles, your spirals, your petals, your curvy lines, and your mushroom shapes. So go ahead and practice and see of all what things you can come up with, what patterns you can come up with for your own Zentangles. Keep these samples around so when you go to do your own Zentangle art, you you have like a reference to look at. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be back with more tutorial type of videos and more instructional videos in the future. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and thank you for watching.